This is a great one. I think you're really going to enjoy this. This was from an article I read, and apparently the source was Evolution in Human Behavior from September 2004. Sound of Voice May Predict Sexual Behavior by Sharnesia E. Higgins. Go find this article online and read the whole thing. It's fascinating. Men and women whose voices were given higher ratings in attractiveness reported having more sex partners and were younger at first intercourse than those whose voices were considered less attractive. Thus, the sound of an individual's voice can reveal important information to potential mates. Study author Dr. Susan M. Hughes of Vassar College in Poughkeepsie, New York, told Reuters Health. In the study, 149 men and women listened to recorded voices of anonymous individuals and rated the voices on a 5-point scale from very unattractive to very attractive. On average, 6 men and 6 women rated each voice. Study participants also underwent measurements of their shoulders, waists, and hips, and some anonymously reported various details about their sexual history. When the researchers compared voice ratings with sexual histories, they found that men and women whose voices were considered more attractive by the opposite sex raters reported younger ages at first sexual intercourse, more sex partners, and more sexual affairs than did those with less attractive voices. Voice attractiveness predicted promiscuity in women better than did their waist-to-hip ratio. So we talked about some theory, we talked about some concepts, and in the next section we're going to talk about some application and some techniques. And then later today we're going to hear from some damn funny and damn cocky guest speakers. Now let's talk about a magical attraction key. Okay, we just touched on it a little while ago. Let's talk a little bit more about it. A magic attraction key. Higher status. I'd like you to think of it this way. Female genes, I'm not talking about Levi's, okay? Female genes reward male status with mating opportunities. So if you need an equation, male status equals mating opportunities. Male status equals mating opportunities. So let that sink in for a minute. Male status equals mating opportunities. Regardless of looks, age, income, etc., you can always send what the evolutionary biologists and behaviorists call honest signals that communicate higher status than her. And you're really going to want to see my mastery program like I recommended for an in-depth discussion of status, how it applies to attraction. Now, laughter serves a social function, as we've discovered. People laugh to get approval and bond most of the time. Okay? Humor is only a small fraction of the puzzle. When you can make a woman laugh, but not laugh yourself, she's seeking approval, and you're not. If you can use cocky comedy to make her laugh, you're compounding many powerful forces into one incredibly focused moment. You're at the same time communicating high status overtly with your arrogant comment. You're making her laugh, which is her seeking social acceptance, and you're not laughing yourself, which communicates that you are high status and you don't need her approval. All of which, when combined together, create and amplify attraction. When you can use cocky comedy to make a woman laugh while not laughing yourself, you're on the right track. So do you understand those 3 components mixed together? Okay? They are overtly communicating higher status, making her laugh, which is her seeking social acceptance, and not laughing yourself, which communicates that you don't need her approval. And I tend to think of things like this as multiplying each other, not being added to each other. Okay, if you do 2 without the other one, not as powerful. Not anywhere near as powerful. In my mastery program, I talk about this book, Impro, by John Stone. And I'd like to read you another section about status. A section he calls Teaching Status. Social animals have inbuilt rules which prevent them from killing each other for food, mates, and so on. Such animals confront each other and sometimes fight until a hierarchy is established, after which there is no fighting, unless an attempt is being made to change the pecking order. This system is found in animals as diverse as human beings, chickens, and woodlice. I've known about this ever since I was given a book about social dominance in Kittiwake. Kittiwake? What kind of animal is that? Interesting. Colonies. Yet I hadn't immediately thought of applying this information to actor training. This is because normal people are inhibited from seeing that no action, sound, or movement is innocent of purpose. Many psychologists have noted how uncannily perceptive some schizophrenics are. I think that their madness must have opened their eyes to things that normal people are trained to ignore. In my view, breaking eye contact can be high status so long as you don't immediately glance back for a fraction of a second. Think about that. Eye contact can be high status so long as you don't immediately glance back for a fraction of a second. If you ignore someone, your status rises. If you feel impelled to look back, then it falls. It's as if proper state of human beings is high, but that we modify ourselves to avoid conflicts. Posture experts, like Matthias Alexander, teach high status postures as quote-unquote correct. It's only to be expected that status is established not by staring, but by the reaction to staring. Thus, dark glasses raise status because we can't see the submission of the eyes. I minimize status resistance for my students by getting them to experience various status sensations before I discuss the implications or even introduce the term. I might ask them to say something nice to the person beside them and then to say something nasty. This releases a lot of laughter, and they are surprised to find that they often achieve the wrong effect. Some people never really ever say anything nice, and others never say anything really nasty, but they won't realize this. I also ask a group to mill about and say hello to each other. They feel very awkward because the situation isn't real. They don't know what status they should be playing. I then get some of the group to hold all eye contacts for a couple of seconds, while the others try to make and then break eye contacts and then immediately glance back for a second. The group suddenly looks more like a real group, in that some people become dominant and others submissive. Those who hold eye contacts report that they feel powerful and actually look powerful. Those who break eye contact and glance back feel feeble and look it. The students like doing this, and they're interested and puzzled by the strength of these sensations. I might then, this is an interesting thing, he says, I might then begin to insert a tentative at the beginning of each of my sentences and ask the group if they detect any change in me. They say that I look helpless and weak, but they can't, interestingly enough, say what I'm doing that's different.